The snow fell softly outside the window, covering everything in an eerie stillness that contrasted sharply with the chaos in Maya's mind. She sat in the cold, dimly lit kitchen, staring blankly at the cup of tea she'd made but hadn't touched. The sound of her husband's voice on the other side of the locked door replayed in her mind, stammered excuses, half-hearted attempts to explain the inexcusable. But it was Jel's voice that haunted her the most. "I was just a joke. Or experiment," Jel had said. Maya gripped the mug tightly, the words echoing in her skull like a mantra she couldn't shake. She replayed every moment, every glance, every whispered confession she and Jel had shared over the past months. How could something that had felt so real, so alive, be nothing more than a cruel game to the person she'd let into her heart? And her husband, the man who had ignored her for years, whose disinterest had pushed her into Jel's arms in the first place, now sat in their bedroom like a guilty child caught red-handed. He hadn't even tried to deny it. Maya felt the rage brewing inside her chest, like a pressure cooker ready to explode. But alongside the anger, there was something more complicated, more insidious. Love. For Jel. For the girl who had awakened something in her that she hadn't felt in years. The next day, Maya decided to confront Jel face to face. She needed to hear the truth. She needed to know why. Maya's hands trembled as she knocked on Jel's door. The small apartment where they had shared so many stolen moments now felt foreign and cold. Jel opened the door cautiously, her eyes red from crying. "Maya," Jel started, but Maya cut her off with a sharp gesture. "Why?" Maya demanded, her voice breaking. "Why did you do this to me? To us? Was it all a game to you?" Jel stepped back, her hands clutching the edges of her sweater. "It wasn't like that," she whispered. "At least, not at first. Not at first." Maya spat. "Do you even hear yourself? I trusted you. I thought you cared about me." "I did." Jel's voice cracked, and tears began streaming down her face. "I do. But when I met him, when I met your husband, I didn't know he was your husband. And then, I don't know. I got caught up in something I couldn't stop." "You couldn't stop?" Maya's voice was trembling with disbelief. "You mean you didn't want to stop?" Jel sobbed, collapsing onto the couch. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely audible. "I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. But now I know." Maya crossed her arms tightly over her chest, bracing herself for the next blow. "And what is it you want, Jel?" "I want him," Jel admitted, looking up with tear-streaked cheeks. "I want a family. Stability. Kids. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't pretend anymore. I can't keep living this lie." The words hit Maya like a punch to the gut. She staggered backward, feeling the walls of the small apartment closing in on her. "So I was just a phase," she said bitterly. "An experiment to help you figure out what you really wanted." "It wasn't like that," Jel pleaded. "You meant something to me. You still do." Maya shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "Don't you dare," she hissed. "Don't you dare try to make this about feelings. You made your choice, Jel. And now I have to make mine." With that, she turned and walked out the door, leaving Jel sobbing behind her. Back at home, Maya found her husband sitting in the living room, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He looked up when she entered, his face pale and drawn. "Maya," he started, but she raised a hand to silence him. "Don't," she said coldly. "I don't want to hear it." "We need to talk," he insisted. "No, you need to talk." "I need to think," Maya snapped. She walked past him into the bedroom, slamming the door shut behind her. The following days were a blur. Maya threw herself into work, staying late at the office and avoiding home as much as possible. She couldn't bear to look at her husband or think about Jel. But the nights were the hardest. Alone in bed, her mind raced with memories of Jel's laughter, her touch, the way she had made Maya feel alive again. She hated her. And she loved her. But Maya knew she couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change. One evening, Maya came home to find her husband packing a suitcase. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice hollow. "I'm leaving," he said simply. Maya blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "You're leaving?" He nodded. "I think it's best for both of us. We can't keep pretending everything's fine. It's not." Maya sank into a chair, her mind racing. Part of her wanted to scream at him, to tell him this was his fault, that he had ruined everything. But another part of her felt relieved. "Where will you go?" she asked quietly. "I'll stay with a friend for now," he said. "I need time to figure things out." "And so do you." As he walked out the door, Maya felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in years, she was truly alone. Weeks turned into months, and Maya began to rebuild her life. She joined a book club, started taking yoga classes, and even began painting again, something she hadn't done since college. One day, she received a message from Jel. "I need to see you," it read. Maya stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She knew she shouldn't respond. She knew nothing good could come from reopening that door. But against her better judgment, she typed back, "Fine. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. The park." The next evening, Maya arrived at the park to find Jel waiting for her. She looked different. Older, sadder. "Thank you for coming," Jel said softly. "What do you want, Jel?" Maya asked, crossing her arms. I needed to tell you I'm sorry," Jel said. "For everything. For hurting you. For ruining what we had." Maya sighed, her anger giving way to exhaustion. "It's too late for apologies, Jel. What's done is done." "I know," Jel said, her voice trembling. "But I need you to know that I never meant to hurt you. I was selfish and stupid, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." For a moment, Maya said nothing. Then she nodded. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Jel. But I can't be a part of it." As she walked away, Maya felt a weight lift off her shoulders. For the first time, she felt like she was truly letting go. Months later, Maya stood in her newly redecorated apartment, sipping a glass of wine as she admired her latest painting. It was a landscape of the park where she had last seen Jel, a place that had once been filled with pain but now represented closure. She had no contact with her ex-husband or Jel. She didn't need them. She had found something far more valuable, herself. As she looked out the window at the city lights, Maya smiled. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, she felt ready to face it. On her own terms. 3 months after Maya walked away from Jel in the park, she began to feel a quiet peace settle into her life. But the scars of her past still lingered in subtle ways. Hesitation when someone new tried to approach her, flashes of doubt when she allowed herself to imagine a future that didn't involve heartbreak. One evening, while scrolling through her phone, Maya stumbled across an old photo of herself and her husband from years ago. They were at a party, both smiling wide, her hand resting on his shoulder. It looked perfect. But she knew better now. Her phone buzzed with a message, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was from Nina, a woman from her yoga class who had invited her out for drinks a couple of times. Maya had always politely declined, unsure if she was ready to let new people into her life. But this time, instead of saying no, she hesitated. After everything she'd been through, maybe it was time to try again. "Sure," she typed. "What time?" The bar Nina picked was small and intimate, with soft jazz playing in the background. Maya arrived early, her nerves fluttering as she scanned the room. She spotted Nina at a table near the window, waving enthusiastically. "Glad you could make it," Nina said as Maya slid into the chair opposite her. The evening was easy, the conversation flowing naturally. They talked about yoga, books, and their favorite places in the city. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt herself relax. She even laughed, a genuine full-bodied laugh that made her feel lighter than she had in months. As they were finishing their drinks, Nina leaned forward. "Can I ask you something personal?" Maya hesitated but nodded. "What happened? You always seem so guarded, like you're carrying something heavy." Maya froze. She hadn't expected Nina to notice, let alone ask about it. But there was something in Nina's eyes, something kind and understanding, that made her feel safe. "My husband cheated on me," Maya said softly. "And then, well, let's just say my life got pretty complicated after that." Nina reached out and touched Maya's hand. "I'm sorry you went through that. But I'm glad you're here now." For the first time, Maya didn't feel the need to downplay her pain or brush it off with a joke. She just nodded, letting the words sink in. As Maya started spending more time with Nina, she felt herself beginning to heal. But the past wasn't ready to let her go so easily. One Saturday afternoon, Maya was walking through the local market when she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was her ex-husband. He was standing by a fruit stall, laughing with a woman who was holding his arm. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't seen him since the day he moved out, and the sight of him now, happy, carefree, as if nothing had ever happened, sent a wave of emotions crashing over her. Before she could turn away, he spotted her. His smile faltered, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. Then he said something to the woman and walked over to Maya. "Maya," he said, his tone cautious. "It's been a while." "It has," she replied, keeping her voice steady. He looked down at his hands, awkward and unsure. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." Maya studied him for a moment, searching for any trace of the man she had once loved. But all she saw was a stranger. "I appreciate that," she said simply. He nodded, as if he had expected her response. "I hope you're doing okay." "I am," she said, her voice firm. "And I hope you are too." As he walked away, Maya felt a surprising sense of closure. She didn't need an apology to move on, but hearing it still felt like tying off a loose thread in her life. One evening, as Maya and Nina sat on the couch watching a movie, Nina suddenly turned to her. "Can I ask you something?" Nina said, her voice hesitant. "Of course," Maya replied. "What are we doing here?" Nina asked, gesturing between them. "I mean, are we just friends, or is this something more?" Maya's heart raced. She hadn't allowed herself to think about what was happening between them. She'd been so focused on healing and rebuilding her life that she hadn't considered the possibility of a new relationship. "I don't know," Maya admitted. "But I like spending time with you. A lot." Nina smiled softly. "I like spending time with you too. But I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for." Maya reached out and took Nina's hand. "I'm scared," she said honestly. "But I think I'm ready to take a chance." The weeks that followed felt like a breath of fresh air. Maya and Nina took things slow, exploring their feelings and getting to know each other on a deeper level. For the first time in years, Maya felt truly seen and understood. One sunny afternoon, as they walked hand in hand through the park, Maya found herself reflecting on how far she had come. She had faced heartbreak, betrayal, and loss, but she had also discovered strength, resilience, and the capacity to love again. Nina squeezed her hand. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Just how different my life is now," Maya said with a smile. "And is that a good thing?" Nina asked. Maya looked at her, her heart swelling with gratitude. "It's the best thing," she said. As they continued walking, Maya realized that her story wasn't about loss or betrayal, it was about transformation. And though the scars of her past would always be with her, they no longer defined her. She was free. She was happy. And for the first time in a long time, she was excited to see what the future would bring.